going to talk again. But he came back to me. He says, we've checked you out. We saw your documentary. We read your books. He said, we have kept a bunch of documents in a storage facility for the last 25 years. We want you to have those documents. Now I'm thinking he's talking about maybe a briefcase full of documents. But I sent you a copy. I sent you the photo of those documents. The documents that they've kept in storage for the last 25 years was 50 pounds of documents over 3 feet high. And when he says, we don't want to send them by FedEx or the U.S. Postal Service, we want to put them right in your hand. I'm thinking about making a flight out there and being able to get it, to put it in the overhead bin. I said, man, when I looked at it, I said, there's no way in the world they're going to let me get on. You'd have to put this in 2 bags to get on, and they're not going to let you put 2 bags in the overhead bin. So we had to figure out another way to accomplish what they were trying to give to us. But I'm glad that we were able to get it done, because in those documents tell a story. And the story of Whitehurst's interaction with the O.J. Simpson trial was simply a measurement of another thing that was going on. There was turmoil within the FBI. I don't think it had so much to do with him wanting to come and appear in the O.J. Simpson trial. In fact, I know that he wasn't interested in this O.J. Simpson trial. He had his own problems. They were trying to drum him out of the FBI and throw him out for psychological reasons. So him and his attorney was fighting that. When they received the notice after he had filed on behalf of other multiple agents about the agent who had taken the witness stand in the Simpson trial and lied. And he was cornered outside the paint chip laboratory, he told me, by either 3 or 4, 2 agents and 2 scientists from the laboratory. And they said, this guy Martz that took the witness stand in the Simpson case, he lied. He lied about the contamination in the blood. He didn't do the research. We did the research. And what he got on the witness stand and attempted to say that blood had no contamination, he is just an utter itinerant liar. And we want you to file a complaint with the Office of the Inspector General. And Fred said, you guys have no choice. If you know that this guy lied, you are under executive order, an executive order that I went back and researched, 12731, enacted in 1989 by the first George H.W. Bush, that says that if you know of anybody that has been engaged in malfeasance, corruption, or some other types of criminal misconduct, and they are members of the executive branch, you are obligated to file a complaint with the Office of the Inspector General. But those individuals said, no, we're not going to file anything. We've got wives and children at home, and we know it's screwed up inside the Bureau, but we still have careers that we want within this agency. That's why we're coming to you. We see what they did to you. He said, but we want to continue to remain here. We want you to file the complaint. And so the complaint that we believe carries OIG case file number 9403575 is called the Whitehurst complaint, filed with the United States Department of Justice, Office of the Inspector General. Now, I say that is the case file number. Most of these case file numbers, from Glenn Rogers all the way down the line, because of what I've seen inside them, they've embedded themselves in my mind. I cannot say specifically that is the actual case file within the OIG. We filed 3 Freedom of Information requests from the Ocean Medical Investigative Group. They have ignored them and played crazy and have simply not honored our request to receive a copy of the Whitehurst complaint. And the last few times we've seen that they've shifted the request over to the FBI directly, and the FBI has come back and says, well, your requests are in violation of section...
Thomas, clarify for me. Now, you're saying that Whitehurst made a complaint about the shoe prints or the shoe testimony?
The blood.
The blood, right. That's what oh, you're right, the blood. And so now how did that end? Because I know he was there waiting to testify. He flew down to California, and he was there in the courthouse hall room. How did that play out?
He was subpoenaed. He received the notice in his lawyer's office from headquarters, and they said Johnny Cochran and Sheck and them have subpoenaed you to come, you and your lawyer, to immediately appear in Los Angeles to testify in the Simpson trial. So they had to board a plane and took off for Los Angeles. When they got to Los Angeles, they were put up in a 4 or 5-star hotel over in Beverly Hills. And he said he was there, stuck there for 8 days while they were deciding how they were going to bring him on to testify. And when he left for Washington, D.C., Louis Freeh, who was the director of the FBI at the time, sent his top negotiator, a black lawyer by the name of Stephen Robinson, and told him, you get over to Los Angeles and you figure out a way to keep Whitehurst from taking the witness stand. You negotiate with Cochran and them, the defense team, to keep Whitehurst from taking the witness stand. We've got too much going on, and I'm kind of just figuring out in my mind, but at the time you had Ruby Ridge,
right,
Waco. You had a number of things that were public that they did not want out there.
So the FBI attorney was able to negotiate with Cochran and Darden and Marsha Clark that Dr. Whitehurst would not testify, and he was going to testify that there was a lethal amount of EDTA in the blood?
Correct. But I don't think that he went there with the intent to negotiate with Marsha Clark and them. Because Marsha Clark and the prosecution
they didn't want They didn't want him on there anyway, right? They didn't want him on there anyway, right.
They didn't. They found out initially they were going to use him. It was the prosecution who had gotten information regarding this anonymous individual inside the Los Angeles Police Department bringing this information. So let me just break it down and tell you how I title this. I title what we're talking about today in my notes, Blood In and Blood Out, because this became a battle of the whistleblowers. Fred Whitehurst is a whistleblower, okay? And once you start examining the concept of whistleblowers, not just for the FBI, but in other agencies, particularly where people are engaged in malfeasance of contamination and stuff like that, and people know that they're readily involved in that, and they go and they want to blow the whistle, now they put their lives in danger. Well, this is what happened in the Simpson case. Before the trial, there was an anonymous individual inside the Los Angeles Police Department who initially brought this truth about the glove being planted on Simpson's property by Furman and the blood being contaminated, and told a gentleman in a meeting up in Denver, Colorado, in a hotel in Denver, Colorado. This anonymous insider within the LAPD met with an author, a true crimes author up in Denver by the name of Stephen Singular, who would go on to author the book Legacy of Deception about all of this stuff that we're talking about. He was attempting to talk information that he had back to Los Angeles 1,000 miles away to give to the defense. And Singular asked him, why have you come all the way to Denver to get me to do this? And he said, because you wrote that book a decade ago entitled Talk to Death, where members of the white Aryan nation, a splinter group called the Order, had come down to Denver on their way to do whatever they were going to do in promulgating a racial civil war. They decided that they were going to assassinate this Denver talk show host, and they did. Kill him right in his driveway by the name of Alan Berg. And he said, you wrote that book. And he says, I'm here to tell you that the same type of people who committed that assassination, who are white supremacists, neo-fascists, neo-Nazi sympathizers, have made their way into these institutions around the country, law enforcement institutions, and they are embedded inside the Los Angeles Police Department. And they function now in higher command positions, and they protect corrupt and brutal officers like this officer, Mark Furman, period. Mark Furman had been designated as a neo-Nazi by his partner in the vehicle with him by the name of Andrew Purdy. Purdy went to the complaints officer, Lucianne Coleman, on July 24th, a month after the murders had taken place, and she was raising the question about, he went there to file a complaint about Furman when something came up on the television, and she said, no, I don't think that that's right. Something about planting the glove and so forth. He said, I wouldn't put it past him. And he had described Furman as on the weekend wearing Nazi paraphernalia around the precinct, so on and so forth. And so the problem is that a number of these police officers had come to Lucianne Coleman and began to give information about Furman, but later said, you're not going to put me on the witness stand to testify. And so when she said to Purdy that I'm prepared to put you on the witness stand, he said, no. He said, that diary, I'm burning it. And if I'm put on the witness stand, I'm going to lie. So that was the type of situation in which this individual had gone up to Denver to meet with Singular. Singular said, why didn't you go to the prosecution with this information? And he said, the whole Los Angeles justice system is utterly corrupt. If you take this to the prosecution, they're going to treat you like they don't believe you, and it's just going to get swept under a rug. Take this to the defense. And so Singular was able to attain a meeting with the defense team, particularly Carl Douglas and some of the other attorneys, on August the 8th, 1994, a month and a half after the murders had taken place. And in that meeting came the discussion of the glove, and the anonymous insider said, with that glove that was planted on Simpson's Rockingham property, you will find a broken piece of stick that will be out of place on that manicured property that was broken off the back of Nicole Brown Simpson's fence on her backyard. And you will find a blue plastic detective's evidence bag that is in close proximity that was thrown down near that glove. They did not believe that initially in the meeting on August the 8th, but so Stengler went back to Denver. Carl Douglas and them decided that they would go